Imagine looking up at the sky and seeing it rain rats. An unbelievable sight, isn't it? But it actually happened on Sunday, December 1st, 2013, over the remote island of Guam in the heart of the Pacific Ocean. More than 1,000 dead rats were dangling from small cardboard parachutes, descending slowly amidst the dense trees, as if they were soldiers on a secret mission. But the truth is stranger than fiction. These rodents were part of an environmental war declared by the United States against a creeping enemy that silently infiltrated and threatened to destroy the island's natural system. A bizarre operation that cost more than $8 million, involving experts and helicopters to drop the rats at calculated times, some of them equipped with transmitters. So, what was really happening? Why did they choose this strange method? And did they succeed in stopping the catastrophe before it was too late? This is what we will find out in this video. But before we start, support me with a like and subscribe to the channel because this greatly encouraged me to produce more videos. After the end of World War II, American military ships began to traverse the Pacific Ocean, carrying various equipment and items that brought along unwanted organisms. The most dangerous of these organisms was the brown tree snake, a venomous species native to Indonesia and the Solomon Islands that reached the island of Guam via military ships or planes. Although the exact method of these snakes' arrival is unclear, the environment in Guam was ideal for them, as there were no natural predators to limit their reproduction. Initially, there was no attention paid to the presence of these snakes, but as time went on, their devastating effects began to appear. The small island, which is no more than 50 miles long, became a haven for millions of these snakes, reaching a number of about 2 million snakes. With their rapid reproduction, these snakes began to feed on lizards, then on rodents, and then climb trees to prey on birds. The situation quickly deteriorated as birds disappeared from the island due to the snakes' ferocity. These snakes were capable of swallowing birds constituting 30% of their weight, leading to the extinction of 75% of the birds on the island within one generation. 10 out of 12 native species disappeared completely. With the disappearance of birds, the ecosystem in Guam began to collapse. Birds played an essential role in the ecosystem as they controlled insect populations and dispersed tree seeds. With the absence of birds, the number of spiders increased dramatically, and tree growth declined by 92% because birds were no longer there to transport tree seeds. In the face of this major deterioration, scientists and U.S. authorities decided to use dead rats injected with snake venom. This experiment began in 2010. The rats, which were injected with venom, fell via parachutes onto the treetops where the snakes hide. Some were equipped with transmitters to track the landing spots and analyze the results. The catastrophe was not limited to the environment only. The damage caused by the snakes extended to the island's infrastructure. Residents of Guam suffered from sudden power outages. But the reason was not technical faults or storms, but the snakes themselves, which were climbing electrical substations and causing short circuits, leading to widespread power outages. Snakes became part of the daily life of residents, not only posing an environmental threat but a real danger to the essential services they rely on. Over time, the danger began to spread beyond Guam to the neighboring Micronesian islands, where snakes were spotted there, raising concerns about the possibility of them reaching Hawaii. If that happened, it would be catastrophic because the Hawaiian Islands contain fragile ecosystems that do not have natural predators, and the creatures there are not equipped to deal with these threats. This type of isolated environment, like Guam or Hawaii, cannot deal with new predators like the brown tree snake, and therefore, this addition to the ecosystem was an environmental disaster that could spread more widely. Some might ask, does the brown tree snake pose a direct danger to humans? The answer is that the snake's venom is not fatal to humans. Its bite may cause mild neurological symptoms, but it rarely poses a real danger to adults. Its venom is specialized for hunting lizards, not humans. But the greater danger was not the venom, but the snake's impact on daily life in Guam, especially on the tourism sector, which is the island's main source of income. Imagine planning a quiet tropical vacation, only to find yourself surrounded by venomous snakes, scattered spiders, and continuous power outages. This is certainly not what you expect from a tourist island. According to reports from the U.S. Department of the Interior in 2005, brown tree snakes were causing about 80 power outages annually, and each outage cost the island money, effort, and maintenance. The total annual losses were estimated at about $4 million. If we calculate it over 20 years, the island witnessed more than one power outage, some affecting small areas, while others paralyzed the entire island. Before officials came up with the idea of using dead rats, many other solutions were tried. Traps were used to catch snakes, and trained dogs were used to detect their locations. Even inspection teams were appointed to capture the reptiles. However, the snakes continued to reproduce and spread until their number reached more than 2 million snakes in 2013, and their density in some areas reached unprecedented levels, even exceeding the density of snakes in the Amazon rainforest. The real problem was that most efforts did not focus on eradicating the brown tree snakes, but on preventing them from moving to other islands. Nevertheless, things in Guam were getting worse, which prompted the authorities to make a final decision, and the solution was unexpected. As it came from where no one expected, the use of a substance found in almost every home, which is acetaminophen or paracetamol, as we know it in medicines like Panadol. Although acetaminophen is safe for humans, it is considered toxic to the brown tree snakes. This substance disrupts the snake's blood's ability to carry oxygen, leading to loss of consciousness and death. The amount required to kill a snake is only 0.33 milligrams of acetaminophen, which is much less than a quarter of a regular pill. But of course, the snake will not swallow a Panadol pill. So the ingenious solution came, placing the poison inside a dead rat, tying it to a small parachute, and then dropping it from the sky to reach the treetops where the snakes hide. This is how the organized operation began. The implementation of the plan was not random, but required careful follow-up. Small radio stations were used in the forests to monitor the movements of the snakes and the baits. And there was another challenge, which was that the dead rats do not remain usable in the hot weather for more than 2 to 3 days before spoiling. Therefore, if the snakes did not reach the bait in time, the entire operation could fail. This operation was carried out in stages and repeated several times. In 2013, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced an ongoing plan to drop 4,000 poisoned rats from planes in a large-scale cleanup operation. This solution may seem crazy, but the strangest thing is not only the number, but the precise environmental details that accompanied it. As for other animals, there was no great danger to them. Dogs and pigs might be affected if they ate about 500 poisoned rats, which is unlikely. As for cats, they might be harmed if they ate about 15 rats, but the rats were stuck in the trees, which limited the risk of poisoning to these animals. Even lizards and iguanas that climb trees did not show interest in these baits because they usually do not eat them. Despite the success of the operation, the Animal Protection Society PETA objected to the method and considered it cruel as ingesting. The poisoned rat might cause suffering to the snake before its death. But in reality, this method was the most effective, as catching and killing snakes was impossible in the rugged forests that are difficult to access. Years after the plan was implemented, the U.S. government did not declare a complete victory. In 2013, they were talking about containing the danger, not eliminating it completely. Guam's forest is full of rugged lands that are difficult to enter, which made tracking the snakes difficult. The forests were considered ideal environments for snakes and immune to any human intervention. Despite the success of some efforts, the war against the brown tree snake continues to this day. In 2020, the U.S. Department of the Interior announced a new investment of $3.4 million to try to limit the spread of this invasive species in Guam. However, questions remain about whether poisoned rats will play a role in this battle again, or whether the strategy will change. Despite the ongoing controversy over the use of poisoned baits, this method was not new. It has been used for decades to eliminate invasive species that threaten natural environments. One notable example of this is the isolated tropical island of Palmyra in the Pacific Ocean. In the early 20th century, black rats invaded the island. Initially, there was no noticeable change, but over time, the rats reproduced at an unnatural speed and caused the destruction of the entire ecosystem, as they began to devour everything from small hermit crabs to shrubs, bird eggs, and their young. There was no choice but to intervene quickly. In an area of only 5 square miles, there were about 20,000 rats, which is tens of times more than the usual density in cold areas. The tropical climate allowed them to reproduce year-round, making the situation worse every day. Wildlife was threatened with extinction. Scientists implemented an unconventional plan, dropping poisonous pellets for the rats from helicopters, and even launching baits using slingshots towards the high trees. In August 2011, the success of the plan was announced, and the island became completely free of rats. A year later, birds and lizards that had been kept in captivity were released. But what happened on Pinzon Island in the Galapagos Islands was more exciting. The island was home to unique species such as giant tortoises, volcanic lizards, and Darwin's finches. European rats arrived on the island in the 18th century, and the disaster began. The rat population was estimated at about 180 million, which is equivalent to 10 rats per 11 square feet. They threatened the existence of many native species. Therefore, one of the most elaborate rodent eradication operations in history was launched using poisonous baits. Despite concerns about the effect of the poison on some other species, the danger from the rats was greater. As a result, baby giant tortoises began to reappear on the island for the first time in centuries. In New Zealand, the battle was with a different enemy: wasps. These invasive wasps, which arrived with merchant ships from Europe in the mid-20th century, posed a serious threat to native insects such as bees. The same idea was applied using poisonous baits seasonally, and even if complete eradication was not possible, control was. In the end, history shows that poisonous baits have been an effective tool in many environmental battles, but not without challenges. The balance between saving the ecosystem and protecting non-target organisms is delicate. These strategies will remain a constant topic of discussion in an attempt to find the optimal solutions. If you were in the shoes of the decision-maker in Guam, would you agree to drop poisoned rats from the sky? Or do you think there are more humane and less harmful ways to control the snakes? Share your opinion in the comments. Perhaps your opinion holds a solution to environmental problems elsewhere in the world. With that, we have reached the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and we will meet in the next video.